Everybody, it's Kathy Opperman here at Pillars of Light and Love at the Empowering You Center in Trapp, Pennsylvania. And I'm here with Stephanie Morath. Thank
Hello.
you, Stephanie. And Stephanie is coming up on the 1-year anniversary of her daughter Julia's passing. Julia chose suicide after a bullying incident, and Stephanie has finally, she's been very involved here in our program called Julia's Joy, which we created in Julia's memory. We have teens and tweens ages 11 to 19 who come and just have fun, talk about life and things, because in Julia's memory we want to help other teens who may be struggling, and we're not struggling, just to know that there's a place to come. So I've asked Stephanie to share with today's parents of teens the things that she knows now that maybe she didn't know before, in hopes that other families would know what to do, what signs to watch for. We have a lot of kids going through bullying issues, a lot of kids. We just had a mom who stopped in and is struggling with her 13-year-old and doesn't know what to do. And you said you saw that look on her face, like you know it. What it feels like.
Hello everyone, and Kathy and I are basically doing this interview maybe to give you all, or hopefully I can shed some insight on some tips with what to do, warning signs to look for, what you can do on your part if you feel as though your teenager is in a place that is, I have to say the word, deep and dark. You don't know what to do with that. There is so much information out there on the internet as to where to try to go and get help, what to do, who to call, where do you even begin, and it's very confusing, and you're going to find yourself at a loss, which is hard to muddle through all of the help that's out there and know what is the appropriate help to get. There are a few things that through my horrific experience that I have learned that I wish I had known and I wish I would have done, that I'm hoping that you all, as of course responsible loving parents, are trying to do the best that you can for your kids to prevent this from possibly happening, or just help them with their stress, their anxiety, their challenges they're facing in school that we never had. Just different ways that you might already be trying. I might not be telling you anything new, or things that you might not have ever really thought of that could possibly work.
So let's talk about Julia. On the outside, she looked like nothing was going on, that she was okay, but she did talk about she had depression, she had anxiety, she had an eating disorder. But when she was among all her friends, she was a happy kid.
When Julia was among her friends, she was happy, she was upbeat, she was supportive, she would listen to anybody about their problems, even though she was experiencing the same, or hers were even worse. She found comfort in having fun and being with her friends as a distraction to what was going on really in her mind. When she would be home alone or by herself, her thoughts would get the best of her, and she wound up in a dark place, unfortunately, that she didn't have the strength at such a young mind to pull herself out of on her own. I had done everything that I possibly could to try to get her in a better place. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
She had therapists. She
had therapists. She was on medication. She had been in programs. My advice to you parents, when you're trying to navigate through this world of how to get help for your kids, there's a few things. Number one, the center is a great resource. I can help you be a resource as well. Some of the things that I've learned that I wish I would have done, and I'm sure you've all heard of, is controlling that phone usage is super important, and limiting the time on that phone, because kids now cannot cope with what's going on in the real world and are so focused on that phone being real life, and it's not. And I have found the more I would take Julia's phone away, the more productive she would be, the more of a relationship I would have with her brother would have with her, the more she did find happiness and joy in doing other things and believing everything that was in that phone. The biggest problem I'm finding with parents about the controlling the usage of the phone is you don't want to put up with the breakdown you're going to get from your child. You don't want to put up with the screaming and the yelling and the fit throwing because you're taking it from them. And I think it's important to get over that. You're the parent, take the phone, explain to them why you're taking it, and shut it down. No more conversation. And be consistent. There have been many times I've told her she needed to put her phone down and be done with it by a certain time of day. I'd follow through with it for only maybe a week or two, and then let it go. But you have to be consistent and stay with it.
So she was able to bring her phone into her room at night, have it all
bring
night
her
long?
phone in her room at night, but then be on it all night long. And I would say 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever your deadline is, you're done. And literally take the phone from them. I honestly don't believe trusting they're not going to turn it on after you go to bed is going to be, effective either. Take that phone. It's really, really important. And I think you'll notice a bit of a change there on how your child communicates with you and it is around the house.
We come up with just one thing that when we meet with the teens here at our Julia's Joy program, they say that
it's a relief.
They say it's a relief, but they don't want their parents to take their phone because there are private things and private conversations. Yeah. So you have that balance of privacy. So we were trying to come up with some ideas in the group, and I said, well, if it's privacy that the child's concerned about, maybe you take that phone and you put it into a box with a key, a lock on it. The child takes the key with them. The parents keep the box in their room, and they have to have a trust and understanding that I just don't want you on the device. I'm not going to look through your phone and see your conversations with your boyfriend or whomever. To try to find a balance, like to talk about and say, hey, we need to come to some agreement.
It's not always not trusting your child. It is you don't trust the other people that are out there too. Yes, your child might be making good choices and good decisions and using their phone appropriately, but you don't know what sites they're always on. And we think we know them all, but we don't. And they're changing so much we can't even keep up with them. They might hear about a site, go on it, and they're being contacted inappropriately by somebody else.
By strangers.
By strangers, especially the younger kids who aren't, in tune with how to handle that. As far as the privacy issue goes, my mentality with Julia that I really wish I would have had more is, I'm the parent, I'm paying the bill, that phone is mine, and it's a privilege for you to have it. And this is what I'm going to do. Bottom line, it's for their own safety and protection. So that's how I feel about it.
What we also are saying about the phones is that it becomes an addiction.
It becomes an addiction, and there have been so many times at the dinner table, there's no reason to have that phone. At the restaurants, not the phone. It's movie time with your kids in the living room, no phone. It's just breaking down communication more and more and more. Parents aren't aware of what's going on in their children's minds. I wish that I had done more searching into what Julia was looking at on the internet. I didn't look at her YouTube history searches or her Safari or her Google to know what's really going on in her mind and what is she looking at and researching.
And what did you find when you did do that after the fact? Where was she going?
She was going on sites to do things, to herself and deep, dark places and seeking out people that were in her situation that were negative and, detrimental.
And you didn't know that because you were just looking at what
I was looking at her text messages and her pictures and not even phone calls, but the normal things you would think. But really look at that history of what they're looking at and what's interesting, what their lives, what they're looking for.
And for the child who, how do you know if your child's having a problem? If they're screaming, withdrawing, acting out, when do you know that your child needs help?
Well, the major signs are getting less involved or interested in their activities, more time on their phones with less time doing other things that are productive. hiding in their room a lot, wanting to be alone. You'll ask them if something's wrong. They say, no, I'm fine, leave me alone. Don't always just assume that your child, because of the stresses in life today and what they go through and how hard things are on them, that it's just a phase and that they'll get themselves through it on their own. Try to really have the line of communication open, and instead of sitting down and feeling as though you're dictating at them and preaching to them, kind of just listen to them. I found that with Julia that the kids these days don't think we know what we're talking about. They don't respect our opinions. They don't think we understand, that we don't get it, that only their friends get it. And in all honesty, a lot of that is true. And even if it's not, we're not going to be able to convince them otherwise. So just sit and listen. Ask them questions. Let them know you're available to talk without any confrontation and yelling and dictating and preaching. And I found that Julie and I would have the most effective conversations doing that than not the normal things that people tend to do when they're frustrated with their child and the yelling and arguments all the time.
Because they don't know what to do. And a lot of parents do what they were taught to do, which is just get over it. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't feel that way. Get over it.
You need to find a good friend to confide in. One that understands, that's not going to talk to other people, one that will keep things confidential. And if they can't find a friend to do that, let them know that you can be that person and that you'll be there to support them and listen and get them the help they need, without saying the typical get over it, it's just a phase, you'll be fine, suck it up, or putting your child down, making them feel, worthless, more so than they probably already are.
Because we say that everybody, including adults, want to be validated, knowing that, hey, I do have these feelings and I can't just get over it.
And I think a lot of this seems logical. And of course, this is what I do or what you do at home, and you probably or might already be doing that. But I think now with teen problems, it's more being a little bit more aware, a little bit more observant, a little bit more watching, looking for the clues and the signs that they really are struggling. And even though you're doing an excellent job with them as a parent, kids these days, you need to be more alert. Yeah.
So you've given a lot of great advice. Is there anything else that you would say to today's parents that you wish you would have done differently now that you know? You said go through the searches in their phones, their internet searches.
Stay really, really super involved in their lives. Don't dismiss things as normal teenage behavior. Keep the lines of communication open more. Monitor that phone usage. And like Kathy said, take that phone, go in there, search what's in there and what they're looking at, and make sure that it's all healthy and all normal teenage things. That would be the best. Or instead of, if you think they're struggling or having problems, and shipping them right off to be put on medication, or to see licensed therapists that aren't always effective out there, that are just trying to get your money and navigate your way through that. See if it would benefit them more to come to a center like this, where the center is not what they might think counseling or a place for the misfit kids and it's not cool. They might make a new friend here. They might find somebody that is outside their normal group of friends that they really bond with, and it doesn't hurt to have them give it a try.
And we also say get back to, especially if you have young children, get back to nature. Go outside with them. Take walks. Take a cooking class together.
You never see kids
something.
outside anymore.
They're not outside, but the parents aren't, encouraging it, and go outside together. We're not even going to get into video games and the things that happen to your mind with video games.
Family time.
Yep.
I know for me, I've been caught and guilty many times of being with Julia, and she'll be on her phone, and there I am doing the same thing. And we would be out to a restaurant, and we actually would both catch ourselves and say, put it down.
Have you ever been to a restaurant, Steph, and seen the whole family on their phones?
Yeah, that's bad.
The whole family on their phones. I think there's a disconnection that's going on. And what we're saying is reconnect in. I know you had Julie with therapist. She had a lot of friends. But, her mind was not able to cope, and we want to teach children, young
Julia
people.
also was an extreme exception as to what she did to her not being able to cope and her mind being so ill that the goal here is to prevent other kids from getting that far in their lives where they feel as though that's the only alternative. And unfortunately, so many are. But if we can be ahead of it and be aware of it and know the right resources and where to go to get the help, the goal is to prevent it happening. And it's becoming more and more of an epidemic.
We know that suicide is up 200% ages 11 to 15. We also are aware of another study from of 500,000 adolescents followed from 2010 to 2015. Out of 500,000 adolescents, 48% of them had feelings of hopelessness, a suicide attempt, or a suicide outcome. That's almost 250,000 kids who were on their devices, cell phones, iPads, more than 5 hours a day. And how many kids do you think that is that are on more than 5 hours a day?
There's
Most of
another
them.
great
Most of
private
them.
resource. I haven't personally tried it. There is a crisis text line. All the kids do is go into the crisis text line, type a 6-digit number, and they hit send. It could say something, whatever they want it to be, and there is an online crisis counselor that will text back and forth with the kids about whatever, and not just kids, adults, anybody in crisis, about whatever's their problems are, and give you the resources of where to go and what to do. And that remains anonymous, and you can use it just to vent, just to say something.
Right. In Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, there's actually a mobile unit that will come out in a plain car, and if you have someone in crisis with suicidal thoughts, they will come out plain clothes just to come out and talk and try and diffuse the situation. In addition to all of that help, and we have a lot of the resources on our website, you can get there easily to go to juliasjoy.org. We also here at the Empowering Youth Center have holistic stress management specialists, because we're finding that, and you're going to hear a lot more research on this, that a lot of the chemical imbalances in the brains of young people today is from a gut-brain connection, an unhealthy gut, from diet, from toxins in the food. We all know about the GMO foods and all that. It's real, it's really real, and it is affecting the brain chemicals. So you can go and get on medications, trying to find the right medication, or you can go a holistic route, and we have that available.
And that's a whole new approach that I wish I had known about before.
We didn't know. A lot of people don't know.
I didn't know about that or the center. Medication is not always the answer, and it can help. And I'm not saying it, it has saved, it has its place, and it has helped a lot of people, but it's not always the answer.
Right. And we were just speaking with a mom with a 13-year-old. She's like, I don't want to go the medication route because I want him to learn how to handle stress, how to handle those feelings. But then when it gets out of balance, you do need help, but it doesn't have to always be medication. Of course, get evaluated by a physician. We're not saying not to do that, but know that there are alternatives out there. So I thank you for your time. I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover, and I appreciate you sharing your advice to other parents.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Our website is in our comments below, and thanks for tuning in.